Good morning. Welcome to episode 2 of Holy Tea Time. I'm Gabrielle Fox. If you are joining us for the first time, this video is typically recorded on Instagram Live. We are about to go live on YouTube as well, and all the videos will be saved on YouTube under the series or the channel or the playlist, I think it's called on YouTube, Holy Tea Time, so you can watch it whenever you want. We typically go live at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. Eastern time in the morning. Today we are starting a little bit late, lady things and all kinds of fun stuff this morning. So I want to jump right into the devotional. Again, if you haven't joined this before, we go live every day. It is 30 minutes. We do 10 minutes like devotional and scripture, 10 minutes biblical history, and then 10 minutes of Christian news. So the Christian news segment is my way of letting people know what's going on in the world, especially in relation to how it affects people in the Christian world and in the Christian faith, and getting rid of some of that nonsense, that propaganda we see on TV and on social media. So, okay, let's dive in. If you grab this book, it's called Streams in the Desert. It is an original devotional written in 1925. Very cool devotional. Okay, so October 21st. Now we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands. 2 Corinthians 5:1. The owner of the house I have lived in for many years has notified me that he will do little or nothing to keep it in repair. He has also advised me to be ready to move. At first, this was not very welcome news. In many respects, the surrounding area is quite pleasant, and if not for the evidence of a somewhat declining condition, the house seems rather nice. Yet a closer look reveals that even a light wind causes it to shake and sway, and its foundation is not sufficient to make it secure. Therefore, I am getting ready to move. As I consider the move, it is strange how quickly my interest is transferred to my prospective new home in another country. I have been consulting maps and studying accounts of its inhabitants. And someone who has come from there to visit has told me that it is beautiful beyond description, and that language is inadequate to fully describe what he heard while there. He said that in order to make an investment there, he has suffered the loss of everything he owned here, yet rejoices in what others would call a sacrifice. Another person whose love for me has been proved by the greatest possible test now lives there. He has sent me several clusters of the most delicious grapes I have ever eaten, and after tasting them, everything here tastes very bland. Several times I have gone to the edge of the river that forms the boundary between here and there, and have longed to be with those singing praises to the King on the other side. Many of my friends have moved across that river, but before leaving here, they spoke of my following them later. I have seen the smile on their face as they passed from my sight. So each time I am asked to make some new investment here, I now respond, I am getting ready to move. The words of Jesus during his last days on earth vividly express his desire to go back to the Father. John 16:28. We as his people also have a vision of something far beyond the difficulties and disappointments of this life, and are traveling toward fulfillment, completion, and an enriched life. We too are going to the Father. Much of our new home is still unclear to us, but two things are certain. Our Father's house, John 14:2, is our home, and it is the presence of the Lord. It is in the presence of the Lord. As believers, we know and understand that we are all travelers and not permanent residents of this world. The little birds trust God, for they go singing from northern woods where autumn winds have blown. With joyous faith, their unmarked pathway winging to summer lands of song afar unknown. Let us go singing then and not go crying, since we are sure our times are in his hand. Why should we weep and fear and call it dying? It's merely flying to a summer land. So obviously, that devotional is talking about heaven. And I do think that it's interesting how my thought process about death has changed a lot since I was young. You see people really fearful of dying, really fearful of their loved ones dying. And I can understand, I can understand it from a certain standpoint in that, like, I don't want to die today because I have life left to live. I think I have a purpose left to live for God. And also, I'm my husband's wife. And if I were to leave today, my husband would be in a place of despair. He would be in a place of sadness. He would be a bit lost. And I don't know for how long. And I don't know what would happen if he would find, another wife. I don't know if he would be okay. So for that reason, I'd be sad about death. But for a different reason, I would be excited about death, because I'm only leaving this world to go be with Jesus. So how can I be afraid? Number one, I can't be. And number two, how could I be that sad? I would only be sad for those that I leave behind here. And so that was a really cool devotional about, don't get so attached and so hung up on the things of this world and, your house here. Because where you're ultimately going, if you know Jesus, if you are understanding of his word and of this world and what's beyond it, then it's a little bit easier to let things go and to not be so attached to the earthly. All right, our next segment, let's get into it. Rowe's Handbook of Bible Charts, Maps, and Timelines. This is the book that we learn all our biblical history from right now on this show. And every show for 10 minutes, usually it's our second segment, we go through some biblical history. I think biblical history is something that's missing from a lot of churches. And it's one of the coolest things about the Bible is, like, people think the Bible is just the Bible. It's like this standalone, isolated document or compilation of books, but it's not. Meaning there's a history behind it. There's, the people that wrote it. There's different versions. There's, when it was first written, it was written on stone, and now, then it evolved, and we went through that on the last show. So if you want to check out, like, really how we got the Bible is what we went through on the last show, go watch episode 1. So I'm going to go through and show the pages first before I get into this, in case you want to screenshot. But I would recommend, like, looking up this book. Maybe they have a digital version. I'm really not sure. But again, this video will be saved on the YouTube under the playlist Holy Tea Time, and all these episodes will also be saved on our website, which the website is being worked on, and it should be done this week. Okay, 2000 BC. Old Testament events are written down in Hebrew, portions in Aramaic. Aramaic was the language that Jesus spoke. Over centuries. In Exodus, the Lord tells Moses to write in a book. Other Old Testament writers inspired by God include leaders, kings, and prophets. Together, these writings on leather scrolls and other materials are called the Hebrew Scriptures or Old Testament. 500 BC. Ezra, a priest and scribe, collects and arranges some of the books of the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, about 450 BC, according to Jewish tradition. The Septuagint, I think I said that right, is the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament. It is translated in 250 to 100 BC by Jewish scholars in Alexandria, Egypt. The word Septuagint, again, I hope I'm saying that right, means 70, referring to the tradition that 70 or 72 men translated it. It is often abbreviated LXX, the Roman numeral for 70. 200 BC, the books are arranged by subject: historical, poetic, and prophetic. It includes the Apocrypha, meaning hidden, referring to 7 books that were included in the Hebrew Bible until AD 90, when they were removed by Jewish elders. So that's really interesting. The Apocrypha, 7 books that were included in the Hebrew Bible until AD 90, when they were removed by Jewish elders. Interesting. I did not know this. This is why we go through this biblical history. You learn a lot of cool stuff. Papyrus, a plant, is cut into strips, pressed into sheets of writing material, and can be made into a scroll or a codex. The New Testament books were probably first written on papyrus scrolls. Later, Christians began to copy them on sheets of papyrus, which are bound and placed between 2 pieces of wood for covers. This form of early book is known as a codex, and we went through what a codex was last episode. AD, hold on, let me make sure I'm going in order here. Oh, no, I'm not. Yes, AD 1, here we go. Time of Jesus, 4 BC to AD 33. Jesus quotes the Old Testament scriptures often. He says that he did not come to destroy the scriptures, but to fulfill them. He says to his disciples, "This is what I told you while I was still with you. Everything must be fulfilled that is written about me in the law of Moses, the prophets, and the Psalms." Then he opened their minds so that they could understand the scriptures. Luke 24, 44 through 45. What I think that means, because I've been reading the New Testament, I'm going through the New Testament now, and I encourage you to do the same thing. Don't depend on pastors to tell you what's in the Bible, because they skip verses. Pro tip. Read it yourself. It can be overwhelming, but if you start at the New Testament, the New Testament is only 27 books. So a book can be 30 pages, a book could be 6 pages, a book could be 25 pages. There are books within the Bible. The Bible is a compilation of books. So start with the book of Matthew, beginning of the New Testament, and read 1 chapter. A chapter is that big number that you see on the page, and I'll show you in a moment in my Bible, as we wrap up this segment, what a chapter is and how I'm reading it. I talked about this yesterday in episode 1 also. AD 100, followers of Jesus. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Paul, James, Peter, and Jude write the Gospels, the New Testament. History, letters to other Christians, and the revelation between AD 45 and 100. The writers quote from all but 8 books of the Old Testament books. These writings in Greek are copied and circulated so that by about 150 AD, there is wide enough use of them to speak of the New Testament or New Covenant. The New Covenant God made with people was promised in Jeremiah 31 through 34, and referred to by Jesus in Luke 22:20, and Paul, 1 Corinthians 11:25, and in the letter to the Hebrews. AD 200, early Coptic translation. So again, this book has so many cool illustrations. I hope you grabbed a screenshot when I put it up to the screen earlier, but this will be saved on the YouTube and the website, so you can always go back. Old Testament Apocrypha. Evidence derived from 1st century AD writers Philo and Josephus indicates that the Hebrew canon did not include the Apocrypha. Now I'm really curious about the Apocrypha. Earliest translations, 200 to 300 Latin, Coptic, which is Egyptian, and Syriac, which is Syrian. Church fathers accept the writings of the Gospels and Paul's letters as canonical, from a Greek word referring to the rule of faith and truth. So I talked about this a little bit yesterday, that the early church decided what was canon or canonical. And those are the 66 books that exist in the current modern Bible today, the King James Version, 66 books. Earlier Bibles had more books, and I'm really curious about those. And after I get through reading the full New Testament in the King James Bible, I do plan on reading earlier versions of the Bible and doing a study on them. So that will be coming soon, and will be in addition to Holy Tea Time. I'm going to have a separate Bible study that we're going to go through the whole New Testament. Okay, let me see what time it is. All right, we're good. Let's finish this out. Normans conquer England in 1066 and make French the official language. No English translation work produced until the 1300s. Middle English emerges, popularized by works such as the Canterbury Tales and Richard Rawls' Psalter, 1340. Okay, AD 1300. The first English Bible is translated from Latin in 1382 and is called the Wycliffe Bible, in honor of priest and Oxford scholar John Wycliffe. During his lifetime, Wycliffe had wanted common people to have the Bible. He also criticized a number of church practices and policies. His followers, derisively called Lollards, meaning mumblers, included his criticisms in the preface to the Wycliffe Bible. This Bible is banned and burned. Wow. 40 years after Wycliffe's death, his bones are exhumed and burned for heresy. I did not know that. Wow. So they really hated this guy. That makes me want to know more about him. Because if we've learned anything from the story of Jesus, it's that whoever they're persecuting, you should probably find out why, even in modern times. In 1408, in England, it becomes illegal to translate or read the Bible in common English without permission of a bishop. World's first printing press, with movable metal type, is invented in 1455 in Germany by Johann Gutenberg. This invention is perhaps the single most important event to influence the spread of the Bible. The Gutenberg Bible is the first book ever printed. The first book ever printed is the Gutenberg Bible. This Latin Vulgate version is often illuminated by artists who hand paint letters and ornaments on each page. And there's a really, I don't know if you can see, but there's a really pretty image of it. All right, AD 300. The New Testament books are collected and circulated throughout the Mediterranean about the time of Constantine, the Roman emperor who legalizes Christianity in 313. By 400, the standard of 27 New Testament books is accepted in the East and West as confirmed by, now I'm going to try not to butcher their names, Athanasius, Jerome, Augustine, and 3 church councils. The 27 books of the New Testament were formally confirmed as canonical by the Synod of Carthage in 397, thus recognizing 3 centuries of use by followers of Christ. Interesting. See, I think the gospel is approximately 900. Jerome starts translating the scriptures into Latin in 382 and finishes 23 years later. This translation, called the Latin Vulgate, remains the basic Bible for many centuries. All right, this is the last bit. AD 1500, Erasmus, a priest and Greek scholar, publishes a new Greek edition and a more accurate Latin translation of the New Testament in 1516. His goal is that everyone be able to read the Bible, from the farmer in the field to the weaver in the loom. Erasmus's Greek text forms the basis of the Textus Receptus and is used later by Martin Luther, William Tyndale, and the King James translators. Martin Luther translates the New Testament into German in 1522. William Tyndale, priest and Oxford scholar, translates the New Testament from Greek, 1525, but cannot get approval to publish it in England. He moves to Germany and prints Bibles, smuggling them into England in sacks of corn and flour. In 1535, he publishes part of the Old Testament translated from Hebrew. In 1536, Tyndale is strangled and burned at the stake. His final words are, "Lord, open the King of England's eyes." Wow. Tyndale is called the father of the English Bible because his translation forms the basis of the King James Version. Much of the style and vocabulary we know as biblical English is traceable to his work. Okay. This is why I really don't understand why pastors and preachers don't teach biblical history. This is really like insane to learn, and makes you realize these people were willing to break the law, to die, and their final words are, "I just hope that the Lord opens the King of England's eyes." Like, the gospel has been impacting people for so many centuries, and when you tell the stories like this and you tell the biblical history, it puts it in perspective for people like us who are just living in this modern 2025. You can Google any scripture, you can hop on the internet, it's widely available. Nobody's being burned at the stake for sharing the Bible today, but it happened. So, all right, let's get into some Christian news. I don't know if anybody has been paying attention to the Charlie Kirk stuff, but I do want to bring it up because there's been a lot of back and forth about what happened to him and whether he's a martyr and all these kind of things, right? So I think that it's important to remember that although he made a lot of people uncomfortable with the things that he would say, and he did bring some political stuff into it, if you've actually read the Bible, especially the Old Testament, but the New Testament as well, there's politics in the Bible. There's leaders and attempted censorship and persecution and power struggles and kings trying to take over and kill kings, and there's politics in the Bible. Charlie was a person who didn't want people to be lied to, and he didn't want people to be deceived. And so right now, there's this crazy gag order that's in place trying to silence people from talking about what could have happened to him and what were the details surrounding his death. And I think that it's important to remember that the government doesn't attempt to censor things unless they're true. That's kind of like a historical thing. And so the fact that even today, we can go back and read read crazy biblical history about people that have been burned at the stake, people that have been crucified, people that have been, tortured and killed for the gospel. And we think that it sounds crazy. I mean, it does sound crazy. But then we watch somebody on, live, unfortunately, on our phones, on social media, be assassinated essentially for the same thing. And there's still people that are lost that think that, we're not coming up to tribulation, we're not coming up to end times, or we're not in end times. Do I think that we're in tribulation yet? No. But I think it's coming really, really soon. And I think that if you take the time to, if you don't listen, Revelation is a heavy book, and to take somebody that's sort of new to the Bible, or not like an advanced, like for me to read Revelation, I'm just like, what am I reading right now? Watch some videos maybe on YouTube about Revelation, about, from a pastor that you trust, from somebody that you trust to tell you what it is. Because you can't deny that, like, the things you're seeing on the news and the things that you're seeing on the political pages that you may follow from, like, world leaders and things that they've been saying, and, like the Prime Minister of the UK saying you won't be able to work unless you get your biometric digital ID. It's like, that's in Revelation. So we will continue on, but I just want people to understand that we are in an age where people are still being persecuted, and Christians have never stopped being persecuted. I'm sure you've heard, even Bill Maher, shocking as it is, although I do think he was just trying to take focus off of what's happening in Gaza. Even Bill Maher is talking about the genocide in Nigeria that's happening. And there's other genocides happening as well in the Middle East of Christians. And a couple years ago, when the October 7th thing happened, that got all this national, worldwide news coverage. But what didn't get a ton of news coverage that country was also involved in is the slaughter of and the ethnic cleansing of Christians in Azerbaijan. So you are comfortable right now in America if you're watching me from the US, and maybe you're safe in some Western countries and some Christian countries, because there are some Christian countries left in Europe, like Romania, etc., Poland, but it's never stopped. It's never stopped, the persecution of Christians. And I need everyone to understand that it is coming, whether you believe it or not. It is coming. And I'd rather have people understand that it is and be prepared rather than not, and rather than, pull the wool over their eyes, look the other way, and live in a bubble, and then they're left unprepared. Their families are left unprepared because the persecution, the censorship, and the shutting down of the church, and the tribulation is coming. It will come to America. It will come to other Western countries and countries that we consider to be Christian or majority Christian. It will not just stay isolated to these faraway lands that we can't really imagine. So I will see everybody tomorrow for Holy Tea Time. Come in your jammies, sign on when you're driving to work, sign on as you're hanging out with your kids, your dogs, whatever. Join us, do a little scripture, do a little devotional, learn some biblical history, and find out what's happening in the world, particularly relating to the Christian faith. And I will see everybody tomorrow, 7 a.m., Holy Tea Time.